Let's go to the bad. I'm trying to get myself a little loosened up here before I get really pissed off. Let's go to the bad.
But it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good. No good, really bad for you. But it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
Matt, you always explain what the music is that accompanies that.
The mode is from, let's see, what is it? Toad's Turnpike, Mario Castle.
And it's Mario Kart. And the reason it's Mario Kart?
Because Stormy Daniels said Trump's penis looks like Toad from Mario Kart.
That's right. We go deep. All right. So the bad. Do we have our sound of pure, unadulterated narcissism? Okay. Napoleon, I think that the Bernie Bros storyline is an act of pure classism. It's a media manufactured nonsense, and it's actually a tool against the working class. What do you think of the Bernie Bro idea?
Yeah, I mean, it's such it's a smear, you know, against the supporters, make people feel bad for backing Bernie. Like, first of all, like, I mean, my first ever political event I've been to was the one in the Queens. It's like the most diverse following is behind Bernie, you know, regardless, you know. But they're trying to paint that picture. But what's so effective about what they did, though, is that it's hard to say, to find a counter argument, because it's like it's like a conspiracy theory. You can't prove against it. Anybody could be not a genuine person, create a Twitter account and start bashing somebody and claim they're a Bernie bro.
Right.
So there's no ways to prove it or prove against it.
And also they made everything in it. So if somebody actually said something that was literally threatening or racist or misogynist, you don't know whether that's either somebody who has 3 followers or it's a bot. But they also made it that, hey, CNN, don't lie. Hey, WFP, release your vote totals.
Right.
Hey, Elizabeth Warren, why all of a sudden have you flipped on Medicare for all? You know, and that is all the same shit, because what they really mean is we don't ever want to be criticized. We don't ever want to be have any sort of reckoning with our power. Now, again, folks, the reason that Elizabeth Warren's bullshit matters beyond whatever. Look, I'm not happy to take a lap. I wish I was wrong about Elizabeth Warren every day. I wish that somehow this fantasy that 2 people running against each other is actually good for both of them, and this unity, like it's like the end of Cool Runnings and they're going to pull the bobsled together. I wish all that stuff was true. It's not in like the real world, but I'm glad it's a beautiful fantasy, and that they would help each other at the convention and all this bullshit. Elizabeth Warren stabbing Bernie in the back every step of the way, and clearly not, I mean, look, I can't, maybe there's a Hail Mary, maybe, I don't know. You never say never. But obviously, if you had to put money, obviously she's not going to endorse him. And that should be obvious to anybody who has any kind of basic processing ability over the last several months in terms of this situation, unless you have a real deep attachment to an idea that has been formed of her several years ago. But again, what is embodied here in this clip is an ultimate contradiction that is a fundamental threat to our project, because the bridge that we had hoped to build with liberals is going to be, at least I think as represented along class lines, unbridgeable. We have to build out a social base in this country that is actually the long-term work of the disaffected, of the working, of the real people. And it's tremendously hard. And it might be too late for this election. And that's devastating, for being real. But if this is a microcosm of a certain type of extremely narcissistic upper middle class suburban mindset, an overeducated mindset that looks at where we are historically with Donald Trump, with Joe Biden, with climate, with the tens of millions of dollars that real people have given to Bernie Sanders' campaign, with the children in cages. I'll keep doing the list. And this is where your head's at. It's not just that I find it disgusting and embarrassing, which I assure you I do. It's that this shows a fundamental inability to even begin to meet the moment we're in. And that's what's bad.
Particularly, it's a particular problem with Sanders'
It
supporters.
is. I mean, and it just is. It's just a factual question, and it is, and that's something I think that
Have you ever talked with Senator Sanders about that?
I have.
What was that conversation like?
It was short, but yeah, we've talked about it. But I think it's a real problem.
Does he not share your view that he's responsible for the behavior of his supporters?
You know, I shouldn't speak for him. It's something he should speak for himself on. But I do think it's something.
She'll characterize it as short, but
Yeah,
she doesn't want to speak for him besides
did.
that.
And by the way, why I would, if I was Bernie Sanders, I would never, or advising him, I would say that there should be multiple other people to record and notate everything was said, because you cannot trust an account of their conversations based off of what she had done in January. So look, let's not even go through all the rest of it. 2 quick points. One, and there's honestly actually multiple pieces of data on this. If you want to look up, Branko Mercic has tweeted some out, a very good reporter. No, it is not demonstrated that supposedly the Sanders campaign does this more. If it is quote unquote done more, it is because there's more real people supporting Bernie Sanders than anybody else. And also because things are getting mixed up. Let's just stipulate a really, really extremely narrow set of activities that are unacceptable, including things that are like actually illegal, like doxing, which people have been throwing around without any evidence is happening. Secondly, things that we should never make, like we should not ban and we have to accept as a disgusting price of free speech. But as an example, people saying that they wish Bernie Sanders died of a heart attack, which I saw multiple people say. Really obscene things. But we deal with, and certainly every single group has done them in their own ways. It's totally morally obscene and just as wretched for a Warren surrogate or supporter to relish the situation right now of hurting Bernie Sanders when that means people will literally die because of lack of health care. That's equally as morally repugnant as anything else that could be said online from the perspective of reality. Then there's like a whole broad set of like people talk shit, people joke, and people send snake emojis. If that is the limit of what you're able to deal with in life, well, good luck to you. If you're incredibly privileged, maybe you construct a life like that for yourself. Most people can't. I'd invite you to watch our illicit history of Jamaica, where we show people when they didn't vote for PNP or Labor Party in different neighborhoods, they didn't get sent snake emojis. They had their buildings burned down and they were shot. Maybe you should get like just a 1-second check-in with life. And the fourth point is the rest of it, which is the overwhelming huge bulk of quote unquote Bernie activity, which is wrong. Sorry, you lied about that. We're going to correct the record. Nope, you're lying about single payer. Or actually, yeah, maybe if you compare a major Jewish presidential candidate to the coronavirus, maybe we'll check you on that. And even if I was to stipulate, because Elizabeth Warren put out that embarrassing, ridiculous, and I think ultimately quite dangerous plan about fake news a couple months ago. Even if you were to say this is somebody, she doesn't have a structural critique of these platforms and things like that. I'm not talking about an anti-monopoly critique. I'm talking bigger. And she really just, she's one of these like fact people and that's going to set us free. Okay, whatever. Sure. Put forward some legislation. I'll fight against it because I think it's dangerous. But that being said, there is nobody on earth who could look at anything we're dealing with a modicum of seriousness and take a primetime television exit interview for a campaign that has already received way more media coverage than any of its vote totals have ever earned and spend it talking about that. It's insulting. It's insulting to poor people. It's insulting to people who work. It's insulting to island nations. It's insulting. And that's it. Very much that's it. Like if you even have like 1% of like, well, I think, I'm not open to hearing it. You guys have anything to add?
I mean, if she cares about, does she care about people? Do you even care about people? Like, it's not a graceful way to, like you say, to exit. She didn't need to add on to that. So that's why, to me, it's like, what are you trying to accomplish here? What are you really trying to accomplish? And it's like, it's funny when they talk about the Bernie bros and stuff. When you're in the spectrum of like, let's say a personality type where they're on this side is people that are like pull yourself up by the bootstrap types, you know what I mean? And on this side where it's like it's mostly about solidarity, it's like all we want is what we want for ourselves is we want for everybody. Like universal programs. We're talking about healthcare. If you're sick, I want you to get the same care as I do. And I mean, if that's not compassionate, I don't know what it is. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, you don't gotta. We don't have to be polite. We want these things. You know what I'm saying? It's like this is a day and time. The stakes are high. We have this one chance to make things happen right now. It's not a game. It's not a joke. People are dying. I know people that have cancer that need this, that really need this. It's not like, it's not a game. It's not, oh, my feelings were hurt and this and that. Like, we expect more from our politicians. We expect more from these people who get so much light, who have so much power. Their words weigh so heavy.
And by the way, especially a politician, because again, I'm at the, look, most of these folks are just careerists. And I think, frankly, Elizabeth Warren is obviously just a careerist. I get that she did some good work on a couple of issues. That's great. I don't know if
that's sometimes good for your career.
That's, yeah, incidentally, the reason, like, we are not going to have a college professor, even an Ivy League one, who has no political experience and didn't even apparently form her adult political beliefs until she was in her 50s, does not become a United States senator without breakthrough celebrity making work, which is what her bankruptcy work is. Okay? And that's fine. That's great. That's awesome. But enough. Like, it's a fantasy. And the bottom line, what you see is you see someone who's worth several $1 million and a huge amount of incredibly comfortable enablers sitting around and indulging this while you say people have cancer. People are dealing with real shit. And my problem with the left is I can actually deal with that because that doesn't surprise me at all. There's really three obvious things. If Elizabeth Warren was really serious about it, she would have taken the risk of running against Hillary Clinton and all that entailed. If she was really serious about it again, she would have endorsed Bernie. If she was really serious about it again, she wouldn't have run this time. And if she was really serious about it again, she would have dropped out by Super Tuesday. If she was really serious about it again, she would have not, I know she criticized Joe Biden. She systemically attacked Bernie Sanders. And the whole purpose and the whole function of her campaign was clouding and diluting Bernie Sanders' ascendance and taking energy away and endorsements and resources for a bunch of other people playing these games. That's reality. And that's fine. People have a right to be careerists. People have a right to be ambitious. That most people in politics are, and that's fine. But we cannot afford to be in a fantasy life about somebody. And certainly we cannot be using, silly, embarrassing, therapeutic woke language to let somebody, you know what, even again, this was amazing is when you're dealing with a certain type of narcissistic personality, you keep bending over backwards. So it's like, all right, you know what? You're not going to endorse, you're not going to be constructive. How about, could we negotiate on not doing a toxic interview where you complain about Twitter like the week before Michigan? Like, there's just all these steps. But when you're dealing with somebody who's fundamentally just in their own head and a culture that's in their own head, that's all it is. And, I guess read this tweet, Matt, because I think that kind of sums it up, at least for me.
Bronze Hammer here. I sure hope Elizabeth Warren stops feeling so sad soon. Kind of getting worried she's going to be too sad to say if all her beliefs were fake or not.
Here's the thing. It was my turn to be president, and Bernie's a Jew. And, on one hand, you have Joe Biden, who did all the work that supposedly my whole career is about. And then on the other hand, Bernie Sanders didn't get his goddamn carcass out of the way so I could be president.
And guess what? The whole Bernie Bros thing is just her second step, because originally she wanted to say Bernie was unsupportive of women, right? And then even Hillary had to apologize for that stuff because of saying nobody likes Bernie. So they couldn't actually go at Bernie. Even in like this, I closed it, but that Nation article, like the third paragraph is like, Bernie Sanders has never done any of this, and he distances himself and like hates it, obviously, right? Like, yeah.
Right. It's all a bunch of fucking, it's grotesque. That's the thing. It's like you're watching like a horror movie where the people who are like in the most doing the most obscene things to the whole world think they're like, well, I'm perfectly justified.
All these people, for the most part, especially like these people in D.C., like all these people who has represented the left, right, the Democratic Party, the people who are staffing the Warren campaign.
Right.
Richard Wolff talks about this. Is something I've experienced in my life when I was in school watching people make decisions. You make a choice sometime in your career. Sometimes you make it early, sometimes you make it later. If you're getting into public policy, if you're getting into politics, if you're on the left side of the spectrum, that you start standing up for working class people, you start pushing back against the status quo, because the status quo has been killing people since the founding of this country, right? You either take that brave stance and say, you know, I'm going to fight against this, I'm going to try to change it, or you do what all these other people who have been in power in the Democratic Party and most of these staffers have done. They ignore it. And they do that for two reasons, right? One, because they actually don't agree. They don't think that the status quo is killing people and is a problem, right? And that's just a level of kind of cynicism and like stupidity, right? But we can deal with that. But there's a second group that's really dangerous. And that second group are people who know, right, that the United States, our economic system is predicated on keeping people poor. It's predicated on U.S. military and imperialism. It's predicated on a nasty, horrific criminal justice system, right? They know that, but they say to themselves, if I want to get into power, I have to ignore that. And those people really, really resent the left movement that has come about in the past few years, because we actually were able to hold our convictions and tell the truth, while they spent their whole life lying and denying that part of themselves. So when they see it, I mean, it brings up a trauma for them, but it's like a self-inflicted trauma.
And that is actually part of what is, again, mostly this matters as an extension of different class interests, but part of the reason, it's funny looking at how little respect Warren and her campaign have specifically for Sanders. And if I had to guess, it's all, he doesn't have advanced degrees. He was a hippie.
It's like Chris Matthews talking about the protesters that he used to walk past all the time.
It's all he doesn't have the right credentials. That half of the contempt for him is substantive because of the agenda he represents, or 2/3. But there is a quarter of it that is purely just the rage. He lived in Vermont. He was a carpenter. He doesn't have, and what's incredible is that when you realize, because I genuinely was wondering for a while, when Warren was totally bottoming out, and her surrogates would still say, we're building a broad, literally just mimic language of Sanders, except it wasn't happening at all. I was like, well, I guess they're just faking it until they make it, or maybe they're crazy. I don't know what's going on. And then I realized, there is such an arrogance relative to him that they can't even see what's happening in front of their face, because, I don't know, he's not the right person to do it. There is a really very interesting professionalized dynamic there.
He doesn't have the certificate.
Yeah, no, seriously, he doesn't have the certificate. Right. I have a movement building certificate from Harvard.
Yeah. It's all right. The entire Warren campaign now is the "I was told by AppleCare" lady.
I was told by AppleCare that I would be president.
You just watched a Michael Brooks show video. Subscribe to get them all. Why wouldn't you? Don't be foolish. Click subscribe below and become a patron as well. Patreon.com/TMBS. Thanks, everybody.